I'm Jill, or Daffodil. That's what my channel is called, because, I don't know, daffodils are pretty. And it's spelled weird because it looks cool. Yeah. Anyway, today I built a farm. No, it wasn't today, it was actually a couple days ago, but I built a farm, and it's all blue, because that's kind of a common theme on my island right now, is that everything in, like, one area is all the same color, because it is pleasing to the eye. Hold on, I'll give you an example. Okay, so if we come up here, you can see the gym. And I also have, like, the areas, it's like the same color as them, or their house or something. Cause see, Louis has a red top on his house. And then back here, we have Lyman, who's also a jock, and he likes vegetables. So we have a sports juice bar, which I'm really proud of. This is probably my favorite part in the island. But anyway, I suppose I'll get to it. The speed build. This is a speed build, by the way, right? Yeah, enjoy. So this is the area that I had, like, laid out and terraformed out for the farm, because this is where the farm was, the old farm that wasn't color cohesive was. And it's kind of weird shape, and it's a lot bigger than I thought it was. And I don't have a plan. I have, like, the tiniest bit of a plan. Pretty much the only thing that I know is that Wolfgang's house is gonna go right here. But let's just get started. First I started by kind of mapping out where I wanted the blueberry farm to be. I forgot to say, this is a blueberry farm. It's not any old pumpkin farm or anything. It grows exclusively blueberries. But I started mapping out where, like, the main part of the farm is, where the blueberries would actually be growing, with fences that are, you know, of course, blue, because everything has to be the same color, and trust me when I tell you, everything is blue. Once I had, anyway, once I had, like, the main layout, I started laying down the paths to sort of connect the farm, the blueberry farm, to the rest of the farm, and it actually kind of worked out perfectly with, like, the number of rows in there, so that it wouldn't connect, so that, like, the farm wouldn't connect with the path, and that was really lucky on my part. But like I said, I'm probably gonna change it, but I guess now I know that it needs to be 5 long. And I as well started laying down the other alternating color paths, and then that happened, which actually had happened a couple times, which is really annoying. And, you know, if you'll notice, I completely left out that bottom part there, which is just lovely. Anyway, I started laying out they are blue hyacinths because they kind of look like blueberries. And I originally did a lavender farm, but I was like, everybody's doing a lavender farm. So I wanted it. This is where I noticed that I completely left out the last layer. Trust me when I tell you, it was devastating, honestly. But I originally did lavenders, and I thought, you know what, let's switch it up a bit, let's be different. So I wanted a different color of hyacinth, and for some reason it still had to be hyacinth. I don't know why. It could have literally been probably any other flower. Oh, I forgot the beehives. Anyway, once I kind of figured out where I wanted all the flowers to go, I started putting in some hedges, like replacing some of the iron fencing, because, like, to give it that overgrown look, which I really like. And for some reason I also only got 1 hyacinth lamp, and you can't even really see it. And I honestly had no idea what I was doing with this build. I really don't like the way it turned out. But it's fine. I digress. I just kept kind of putting stuff that I thought would fit well in the barn. Not the barn, this isn't a barn. There isn't a barn because I was a layer too high. So I couldn't make a barn because it's too dangerous to climb that high. You just got a glimpse of my massive stack of items that I got ready for this build. Okay, so originally it was just gonna be a farm, but then I was like, you know, a lot of these items also work well with the campsite, so what if I combine it with the campsite? And so the original plan was to have it all on the top layer, which would have probably looked way, way better. But then I was like, there's a spot for an incline here. What if I made it a double story, like the lab and the sports bar? That would be kind of funky fresh. And let me tell you, it's not very funky fresh, because the lab and the sports bar combined are probably still 1/3 of how big just the farm is. So I really, really did not think this through. But I guess it's fine. I'm gonna redo it. We've been new. Anyway, I started laying out some like Christmassy items around Wolfgang's house, because like it's a farm, but it's still a house, you know? So he's got like some domestic items around, and also it's, you know, it's the holiday season, and I really want to decorate my island for that, because this time of year is just, it's a really swell time of year. It makes me happy. I'm not gonna lie, I don't know what to say right now. Oh, right. While I was doing this, actually, I was watching, the live action Dora the Explorer movie for like the 3rd time. I don't know why I keep watching that movie, because I always build it up in my head and I think it's gonna be a lot better than it actually is. And then I watch it and I'm like, oh. You know, you think it's gonna be good because the commercials look so good. But then I always forget that Dora is like how she is. I don't know. It always makes me feel so embarrassed for her, even though she doesn't feel embarrassed, which is like honestly good for her. I wish I had the confidence of Dora the Explorer in the live action movie. But at this point, I'm just playing Animal Crossing. That's all I care about at this point. So I kept putting down, as you can see, literally everything is blue, and at this point I'm just running around trying to figure out what to do, because literally the only plan that I had was to put the Christmas items around Wolfgang's and to have a blueberry field, and I had done both of those at this point, and so I was just kind of running around without a plan, and it was kind of terrible. Also, here I was seeing whether or not I could put the lawnmower on the table, because it's a 1x1 and it's like pretty small, so you might think that you could put it on the table. And I wanted to put it on the shelf if I could, the one in the blueberry field, but alas, you cannot. Oh, over here I was just thinking like, what could I put there, because it's such a weird shape, and so was that like weird oblong thing. I was honestly running around like a chicken without my head off. I literally had no idea what I was doing. But it turned out better than I thought it. No. I thought it was going to be a lot better than it was. But then I saw how big it was, and I thought it was going to be a lot worse than it was. So, all in all, I'm not entirely unpleased with how it turned out. I'll just leave it there. But I definitely do think I'm going to redo it, or like revamp it up a bit, especially with okay, I haven't gotten to that part yet, so I'm not gonna spoil it. You can watch it and find out what else I'm gonna revamp later. I feel like a lot of this footage is just me running around trying to figure out what to do, because I was so lost. And what I do a lot is that I place items kind of randomly, not gonna lie, and then I do a lot of adjusting to like where they might fit better or look better, you know? And it usually doesn't work out that well. I feel like my builds are only really good if I get it right the first time, because no matter how much kind of adjusting I do, it's never quite how I want it, because I feel like maybe I just don't have the right items or something. Because there are a lot of items that I could have crafted way more of, but I was just like, nope, I don't want too many. And then I ended up without enough, which is kind of typical of me. I ran out of items so long ago because of like the style of how I build. I don't know if I would call it cottagecore because it doesn't really fit the color scheme, because, you know, I have colors and cottagecore is more like brown or white and like natural and stuff, and mine is like honestly quite a few bright colors and being a bit more cohesive, although it's honestly not at the same time. I really don't know. I just put down what I think looks nice, and I put down a lot of things because it looks nice. And I feel like it's important to have, like, you need space, but you also need to have a lot of things in a little area. And it's really difficult most of the time to like kind of find that balance. But I did my best. And a lot of the time I kept just running around trying to find trees or more items that I could use. And I don't know why I would just go back and pick one item instead of like a few, because I definitely needed a lot more. But you might have caught me munching on some pumpkins there, because that's pretty much all I've been eating for months. When the update first came out, I got a huge farm of pumpkins, and I watered them every day, and so my storage got full of pumpkins, and it's still pretty full at this point, and I was so relieved when they finally added the extra storage because I had so many pumpkins. Yeah, that was the sound of my brother coming in to talk to me, because I clearly don't know how to tell people if I'm like recording or anything, and I probably should do that, honestly. Maybe I wouldn't get interrupted as often as I do, which actually happens way more than you would think, because whenever I'm just vibing, you know, doing something that doesn't really matter, I'm in complete solitary for the whole day. But then whenever I'm actually doing something important, like, everybody's knocking at my door, and it's kind of insane. But it's nice to have people to talk to, I guess, during COVID, because like, I know a lot of people are living alone right now, and that is probably not very fun. I would be ridiculously lonely at this point if I didn't live with other people. But at this point, I, like, for the third time, started rearranging the flowers in my field, because they were just in, like, such a weird place. And I definitely didn't have, like, as many as I wanted, because the farm that I used to have, the blueberry part of it, was way, way smaller. And I didn't realize quite how large this piece of land was, and how many hyacinth plants I would need, or just any kind of flowers, really. I kept running out of flowers, and I had to go back and get flowers, like, a lot of times. So the farm is kind of lacking flower-wise, but for the most part, I think it has enough flowers. It just doesn't have enough stuff, you know? What you're watching right now is when I, like, finally figured out what to do with that weird oblong-shaped piece of the farm that I honestly hate. Like, I put everything in such a bad place. But I decided to do a Christmas tree farm because, you know, it's the holiday season, and I think it would be a cute thing, because I was on a Nookazon trade, and I went to somebody else's island, and they had a Christmas tree farm, and I just thought that was the coolest idea. So I implemented this here, and I did a cliff tree to kind of fill it out and make it look better, because just the tree placement. Oh, yeah, my computer ran out of space when I was recording, but the tree placement, like, the rules in this game for placing trees are kind of bogus. I don't really like them, because it's like you can't place them on cliffs, or too close to cliffs, or too close to other trees, or too close to water, and that's not the way that plants grow in real life, because plants grow in real life, like, regardless of how they are. But I ended up finding a way to look at to make it look like pretty good. Like, I'm actually pretty proud of the Christmas tree area in my island, because I feel like it looks full enough, and I like the little trees in there too, because it's like, you know, the ones that haven't quite grown yet, and I feel like that's a nice addition. I'm really proud of that, not gonna lie. I feel like that's definitely something that I'm gonna keep if and when I redo this. Oh, and I haven't talked about it at all, but the part where Louis, his name is not Louis, the part where Wolfgang is building a rocket ship. And here I was like re-terraforming the cliff, because it was already kind of like that. But then at some point I was just like, you know what, I'm gonna make it bigger. I'm gonna put something over there, because I was delusional and I thought that the space was a lot smaller than it was. But I started putting up the solar panels that I was originally gonna use for a shed, which would have been really cute. But I did not realize that you couldn't go up to the 4th layer, even though I already knew that. But that's on me, honestly. At this point I was mostly done with the build, and I was just kind of putting around like finishing touches and stuff. And I continued to like look around and see what I could maybe improve and where I could put bushes, because, you know, bushes are really cool. They look nice, and especially since I actually managed to have blue ones, because I usually never have the kind of bush that I want. I wanted to kind of exploit that, which is, I'm really glad that I did that, because I feel like the farm would have looked so empty if I hadn't used bushes. Oh, and also here I made the decision to get some new saplings and plant some new trees and stunt them so they could be shorter, because it was kind of like impeding on the walkway and on the Christmas tree area, which we don't want. So here's where I was planting those new saplings so I could kind of redo it. And then 3 days later, definitely waited 3 whole days, did not time travel. No sir, that is illegal. I would never ever partake in such an activity. I had my trees to where they wanted them, and I ended up moving them around a little bit because it was still kind of impeding the walkway. But I'm really happy with how the Christmas tree farm turned out, because it's got some variety and it's pretty full. And here's where I ran out of flowers, and I went and I got more flowers, so that's why it looks like kind of a weird cut there. But I started like putting flowers all around, and a lily of the valley too, because I have like 10 of those, because my old island was a 5-star for quite a while, but that was not very cottagecore. Because in my old island I like recreated the city from Animal Crossing City Folk, because that was the first game that I played, the first Animal Crossing game that I played, and I played it like when I was growing up, and it is a very, very large part of my childhood. And I'm doing the walkthrough now. This is how the farm turned out in completely, but I'm definitely lacking on the designs. I didn't put any designs down at all, except for one that I actually got rid of because it looked out of place, because I didn't put any designs down, and I don't know why I did that. That's kind of space brained of me. But I do like some parts of the farm. Like I kind of vibe with the little, like the Louis outside part of his house part of the farm. I don't know if that makes sense. And like the Christmas tree area I kind of vibe with. I like the rocket ship area because I think it's cool, and it actually matches a conspiracy theory in my attic where I'm building a rocket ship, and I cannot believe that he stole the idea from me. But then if you keep going and we go into the blueberry field, which actually it looks pretty good, and like I kind of like the way the blueberry field looks. I put a snowman instead of a scarecrow because, you know, it's about to be winter and it's about to be snowy. And I don't know if there's a blue scarecrow, but there is a blue snowman. And I think it looks really cute. I'm glad I did that, because it originally was just going to be a decoration, but I was like, you know what? Let's be original. Anyway, that's it. Thanks for watching. Goodbye. Editing out the amount of times me saying the word probably messed with my microphone was kind of insane. Because I said probably so many times. Like, why does nobody tell me about that? But anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. It was my first one, so it probably wasn't. So, yeah, okay. It'll get better. Bye.